into the role that augmented reality and artificial intelligence plays in the enterprise space. So please join me in welcoming Amir Husain, the CEO of Sparkcognition.
Hi there. It's a great pleasure to be here and a great honor. The discussion today will actually be quite varied. We'll be talking about artificial intelligence and how this integrates with augmented reality capability. I am the founder and CEO of an AI company here in Austin, a company called Sparkcognition. And over the last 2.5 years, we've taken our AI-based technology, which has really perfected the art of automated model building, and has applied this to many scenarios where sensor data can be used to build models for underlying assets. So for example, if you want to predict the failure of a pump or the failure of a turbine or the failure of any sort of a physical asset, Spark Predict and our automated model building algorithms can step in and help with that. So that's a little bit of background of the company. We've seen quite a bit of success in the real world working with customers out in the field. We've seen quite a lot of traction. And I'll talk to you today about a few of those use cases. Of course, the technology as well. But what truly excites me is being able to take a glimpse at the future. I feel in some sense that the union of artificial intelligence with augmented reality will be quite profound. In fact, let me ask the audience a question. How many of you are familiar with the idea of neural lace, or what? Okay, excellent. One. Anybody else? Okay. So a couple of days ago, there was an announcement. Elon Musk is investing in a company developing a technology called neural lace. And the idea behind neural lace is that he wants to use this as a digital implant to be able to tie human brains together with machine brains. One of the big discussions that has happened over the last several decades now, but really has reached fever pitch, I would say, over the last few years, has been this disparity, this increasing disparity between AI capabilities and what humans might be able to do. Are any of our jobs safe, and so on and so forth, and there's been a lot of discourse around that. And there's one camp which suggests that perhaps with human augmentation, being able to combine the capabilities of humans with machines and algorithms, that we might be able to achieve some sort of parity. And neural lace is a construct that literally embeds itself in the mind, the sensors that are embedded in the mind, and then allow you to control systems and get feedback from systems. So while this appears to be quite sci-fi, here's a man who's funded a company and off they go in developing this technology. In medical labs, this was already happening, but now it's becoming a commercial reality. So why do I talk about this in an AI/AR presentation? Because I feel one of the core challenges of the future across all industries is how we truly leverage artificial intelligence capabilities in our line of work. AI capabilities, as far as the ultimate dream of AGI, or artificial general intelligence, commander data from Star Trek, that might be some number of years away. But the reality is that AGI being a few years away is taking away from the focus on the specialized capabilities that AI is being able to exhibit, is being able to master with massive economic impact. The largest single profession for males in the US is some form of driver. Drive a truck, drive a cab, so on and so forth. There's about 4+ million people that are employed in this profession. And in about 10 years, most industry experts would tell you that a big chunk of those jobs will be going away. The number one place of employment for women is in some sort of assistive role, some sort of an assistant. That's a little over 3 million women that are employed in those roles. What do we think about that? I mean, artificial intelligence technology is progressing quite rapidly, and if not all, then a big chunk of those jobs will be taken up by AI. So how do we compete, right? So A lot of this is, how do I take the power of artificial intelligence and how do I make it part of me? How do I augment? And that's really what I want to start this discussion off with, and hopefully this is the clicker. It is. So just to give you a little bit of background, Sparkcognition is a new company. We were founded just about 2.5 years ago. We launched our first product in April of 2014. And very quickly, we took our automated model building technology, which leverages artificial intelligence, and started to tackle the problem of machine failure in very large industries. So you'll see some of the customers, but multi-million-dollar turbines failing with either not the right level of skills around to predict when that failure would occur, or an inefficient MTBF maintenance model that was wasting money, or a lack of skill to find a pump failure in time enough to actually do something about it. These were all real problems. I mean, MIT feels that just bearing failure alone on rotating equipment in the US causes over $200 billion in losses annually. So this is a huge problem. And now compounded with this problem is the issue of the weaponization of cybersecurity. So you've got this massive infrastructure that relies on grids and machines and pumps and other physical assets. And now you've got all this conversation this past election about whether the Russians were in or were they not in, and what happened in the Ukraine, and what's happening in Turkey, and what about Stuxnet. These are all real things now. They aren't things that you read in a Richard Clarke book. They're happening in the news, and they're very real. So the natural failure of infrastructure, protecting that is one aspect. The other aspect is what I would call deliberate Byzantine causes that result in the failure of infrastructure. So we've been doing quite a lot of work, and we've been lucky. We've received quite a few accolades, from Gartner's Cool Vendor to the only US company that won the Nokia Global Innovation Award. The 4 products that we have out in the market today that really cover the spectrum of cyber physical safety and security. If you ask us what we do, we apply artificial intelligence to enable cyber physical safety and security. So security is no longer just about having your credit card stolen, and equipment maintenance isn't just about your bearing naturally wearing out and failing. There's a lot of complexity now across both of those. And cyber physical security requires a product like Spark Predict that can ingest sensor data in real time, that can read data from historians like OSI, that can tie in with systems like National Instruments, Compact Rio, that can read the TDMS format and can automatically build models of that machine, what we like to say, imply the physics of the asset just by looking at the data. And then understand what states this equipment exists in, what type of failure is it heading towards, and when. DeepArmor and Spark Secure are more cyber solutions. DeepArmor uses machine learning to identify if somebody's trying to update firmware on your IoT devices, perhaps with malware. DeepArmor will know even if you have a zero-day attack. In fact, if you look at our Sparkcognition Twitter feed, just in the last 2 weeks, DeepArmor has uncovered 2 zero-day attacks using machine learning with no pre-existing signatures. And then finally, Deep NLP, which is a very advanced domain-focused dialogue system. So you've heard of chatbots, and you've heard of deep Q&A type capabilities that many vendors have on a more generic basis. But when you apply this capability to the kinds of materials that we have within the industrial community, we find that these are sorely lacking. For example, most of our material is in PDFs. We work with an aviation company. We've got PDFs with a lot of images, a lot of text. Some of it is text that really wasn't put in as text. It was a scanned piece of a document that just got plastered into the PDF. So there's a lot of just dirty PDFs that need to be figured out. And it turns out that solving that problem at scale really requires humans today, i.e. it's an AI-capable problem. So we built algorithms that can actually massage those documents automatically, extract tables. They know about numbers. They can reason over tables. Even if you don't have the language surrounding the table, we can figure out relationships like the biggest and the tallest and the shortest and the smallest and all of these things just by looking at the table. So we've taken natural language processing through the deep NLP API much further. There are many, many capabilities here, for example, to be able to identify PII, personally identifiable information. We want to make sure that when we implement these systems in an industrial context, that we have a clear check on what information is going through, what we are using to train the system. So these are the 4 products today. They all work together to enable cyber-physical safety and security. And the world's largest companies use this. One of the things that I'm proudest about as far as the performance of my team and, frankly, the support of our clients is that today, the largest pump manufacturer in the US is an OEM and a customer. Number 1 and number 2 electric utilities in the US are our customers. The largest utility in Europe is our customer. The largest manufacturer of turbines is our customer. And if you go on and on through the list, 40% of US wind capacity is fielded by Sparkcognition customers. So we've really made, in just 2.5 years from product launch, really made massive inroads. I have the fortune of serving as an advisor on IBM Watson's advisory board, and also have lots of friends, and in fact, one of the senior HP executives, Dr. Tom Bradich, serves on our advisory board at Sparkcognition. Even when big companies go out and speak to a Duke Energy or a large utility, you don't expect a deal to happen in 3 weeks. It still takes a year. We've been averaging sales cycles of between 120 and 150 days because we have a solution, automated model building, that takes much of the data science, much of the manual domain competence, much of the manual domain expertise out of the picture. Not all of it, but enough so that the customer can actually make a move to this technology. Otherwise, if you belabor the customer with having to come up with experts on their end and you sort through the data and you come up with the domain expertise and the 7 vibration analysts that I need dedicated to this project, it's not going to happen. People are busy. Stuff is happening. So this is meta technology that really takes machine learning to the next level by automating machine learning. Okay. So now I want to share with you some exciting things. I've still got some time. And really, this was the crux of the presentation. So now you know who we are. We're working in AI. We, of course, also have a lot of capabilities on the AR side, which we'll start to see. But what can some of this look like? So a few glimpses of the future, but the very near future. Everything I've told you now, these are real deployments with real customers. It's all in the field. This is something that we're working with one of our customers on. So I'm going to share something with you. So this is a Microsoft HoloLens-powered experience that fuses AI and augmented reality. An engineer picks up a HoloLens headset and now immediately upon looking at a factory floor sees these green arrows and a small mini-map indicating all of the assets appear automatically. Down below in the left, you will see text regarding questions that he asks. So show me assets that need my attention. All the green flags go away and he sees an orange flag and he starts to walk towards that asset. These are persistent flags that hold at all times. Now he looks at this, he's a little confused. Automatically, we have deep NLP integrated with this. So he asks the question, what's wrong with this pump? And we know which pump it is, and you get a specific answer because Spark Predict is already tied in with the pump. And Spark Predict now says, these are the 4 issues, but this expert may be new. We have workforce issues with the maintenance crew. So now the software comes in and uses 3D models to give you X-ray vision and help you try and work through the problem. And here he is diligently trying to identify the seal leak, but not having much luck. So the next thing he does is we know from the AI system people that have solved this problem successfully. So he picks one of his colleagues and just quickly, in visor, quickly starts a session and says, hey, what's going on? Tell me how I can solve this. He gets an immediate piece of feedback. That knowledge is implemented right there and then, and the problem is solved. Now, Of course, this can be a much longer scenario, but as we all know, nobody watches more than a 2-minute video. So we had to compress this down quite a bit. But what's happening really? What's happening behind this? There's a lot of stuff happening. So first of all, there's object recognition happening. So every time I see an asset, the system remembers it. I can put this little tag just visually on an asset, and now I've tied it to my asset management system. So all of the information from my asset management system related to this asset is now suddenly available to me. The third thing that's happening is that because I have this asset ID, I also have a link in with our predictive system, Spark Predict, which is wired into the data historian or wired into the National Instruments or SCADA system that's capturing data. So now I have a real-time assessment right there and then of what might be happening using AI and machine learning. The next step is I get prescriptive help. So that's where our deep NLP capability comes in. Deep NLP has ingested thousands upon thousands of manuals, how-to guides, remediation guides, trouble tickets, all of your organizational knowledge, and is now able to use that to answer specific questions. So when you turn around and say, how do I fix this pump? First of all, it knows the context of this. Second of all, it knows that when you say fix, what are the problems happening with this pump, because it's getting that from Spark Predict. And the third thing is that it knows how to fix the pump because it knows what pump it is. It's read all of the material, and it goes and creates a prescriptive summary for you and says, just do these 5 things. That is knowledge augmentation. Now, we are doing this today, not through HoloLens, but through an iPad for our partners at Honeywell. And they've deployed this for Dassault, and now they're moving on to Amir and Pilatus. So this has been very successful. Taking all of this information, highly technical information that was intended for human consumption, and having artificial intelligence systems understand them and really deliver them, beam them into your retina. That's the new thing. So I started off the conversation about neural lace. What I'm trying to tell you is that whether or not you're comfortable with having your skull cracked open and electrodes inserted, this is kind of a next best alternative. I'll do this because I can take it off. And the level of information and the level of capability that's being beamed into my retina is really unparalleled. But let me show you something different. So here, and I apologize for the dark, with the lights, it might not be very visible, but you are now on the deck of the of a USS destroyer, Arleigh Burke. This is a real project that we're doing in collaboration with some folks at the Pentagon. And you have a virtual reality environment that's been recreated, and you can walk around this environment. But you also see along your visor, on the left and the right-hand side, some important status information. The captain is always interested in weapon status, crew status, readiness, a lot of these things which he needs to know about all the time. Today, it's calls, it's checking with other people. Here, it's all in your head. Secondly, what we're doing here is we're integrating this with a live Spark Predict maintenance system. By the way, any displays that you see in this setup, like that geographical map that you saw, the radar readout, for this particular demo, it's just a recording. But the power of the system is we can embed a screen from a cloud instance, an actual application running within a virtual environment. So if you want to upgrade the Arleigh Burke, you put a headset on, they walk around, and instead of seeing the old 1980s, 1990s technology, everything's replaced with the latest applications, the latest compute power, but nobody ever touched the deck of the Arleigh Burke. This is a revolution, because if you look at maintenance costs, upgrade costs, this doesn't just apply to the military. This applies to everything. You have a system that doesn't provide easy visual readouts. Now everything can. This is an example of where there's been a trigger. So there's a problem with the main gun, the foregun, and that has now been resolved. Over on the lower right-hand side, you'll see normal, normal, normal for the missile hatches, the VLS hatches on the Arleigh Burke. There's one which has developed an issue, and immediately you see alert. Now, actually, this VR demo, when we show this, It's actually tied in physically with a model of the Arleigh ship. And all of the problems that we're creating here are done physically on the ship. So you can come and you can stick your finger in the hatch door and you can prevent it from stopping. And Spark Predict, a mini instance of Spark Predict, will pick that up from the model and show it to you inside the VR. So this is something, obviously, which is a revolutionary capability. Now, if you remove the virtual space, if you remove the 3D models of the environment, and you just retain the visor views, that's AR. You can wear this on a HoloLens. This is an Oculus implementation, but now you can wear this with an AR device. Now, on our board, we have the great privilege of having General John Allen, who is a 4-star Marine Corps, recently retired general. We also have a 2-star general and colonel who actually carried the nuclear football for 3 years in the White House. So lots of military experience and skill on the team. And with General Allen, we recently wrote for Forbes a piece on ethical autonomy. As we're going towards this future, how are we going to do these things ethically? And there's another piece that will be published probably in a research proceedings for one of the services that's titled Hyperwar, where a lot of these AI, AR fused concepts and their applications in war are examined in great detail. So if you're interested, that'll certainly be happening. Now, the last thing that I'll put up here is, does anybody recognize this man? Pretty close, pretty close, pretty close. Somebody said X-Files, pretty close. From The Fringe, a TV show called Fringe, if many of you might have seen it. And at the very end of this show, what was revealed was that the enemy was actually just future man. And men had come back from the future. They had elected to use all of their mental capacity to essentially become computational machines. They could predict the future. They could do statistical calculations on odds. And they had completely shut down any emotional response within their brains by basically training themselves to use all of their capacity for this kind of simulation. And of course, that creates a very different kind of man, and it's an interesting part of the plot. But what you see happening now is, and I mean now, I don't mean 5 years from now or 10 years from now. A Tony Stark, i.e. somebody with money and time, can do all of this today. And what can that hypothetical Tony Stark do today? He can have all of these superpowers, which are now even harder to see, but I'll read some of them out. With AI and AR and sensors that exist today, at not very great cost, you can have heat vision, you can have UV vision, you can have perfect sound memory. Every sound that you hear will be cataloged forever. It'll automatically be translated into text. Everything you hear can be searchable, and it can be searchable based on a query. Did Fred say this to me yesterday? Sound triangulation. In many scenarios, in industrial scenarios, military scenarios, you hear a boom or a pop. Immediately, based on the fact that you've got some filtering criteria set up, your visor will light up and tell you exactly where that happened, how far away it could be. You'll have perfect recall of imagery. That Ferrari that passed by this morning, what was the number plate on that car? Maybe you have this thought 3 hours after you see the Ferrari. Then prompting. So the AI is always in your head. You might be forgetting things. It'll always be in your head and telling you what you might be wanting to do right now. Integrated with something like Fitbit, it could give you prompts on a variety of different things, not just schedule-driven, not just what you usually do, what you usually see, what you usually listen to, but how you're feeling right now and what you should do to maybe feel better. Then a bird's, or what we call a God's eye view. So there is satellite imagery available. There are small drones now, pocket drones available, which are very capable. They fly for 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Many of you will be buying those for nephews and children and maybe for yourself this Christmas. You can put them in your pocket and you just take them out and you just throw them up in the air. It's that simple. They provide a video feed straight in, and so you will have a God's eye view both through satellites as well as through drones. These are completely autonomous, so it's not like you need to know how to fly or anything. You just let them go and they'll go wherever you want. Then if you think about radar and LiDAR, if you think about remote vision, again, through the drones or frankly through a camera network, there's, let's see, you can overlay facts on peoples and things. So you have, for example, as you're walking around, I don't know where the closest restroom is. I just ask a question, it guides me to where the closest restroom is. This is a public building and I can see the plan. There's infinite applications of things like that. Being able to predict motion and speed. You see two objects going. In your visor, you now see, just like on a computer monitor, you see two arrows appear and they show you what the expected location of each one of these objects is going to be. So think about driver augmentation. This stuff is already happening with self-driving cars, but now you get to benefit from it. That's augmented. You can see all parts of the spectra. You can see radio waves. You can grab a radio wave just as a gesture, bring it in, decode it, listen to it if you want. You can see heat and cold, and therefore you can see in this building where there's a leak. I mean, all of these things which today are provided by hundreds of different tools with artificial intelligence and AR and sensors, which are so cheap now. You can combine all of this. Now, does this mean that's the worker of the future? No. Some sliver of capabilities that we'll pick will be the worker of the future. We want to give them the ability to see certain kinds of things, and certain types of things might not be relevant. My point was, look at what we're doing. Look at what we're building. People keep talking about when will AGI come around, and I keep telling people by the time AGI comes around, you'll have to solve so many other technological and societal problems that it'll sort of be a moot issue. So with that, let me stop. And somebody else's? My apologies. Okay, I'll stop here, and we've still got a couple minutes for questions. I believe there's a mic here in the middle of the room, so anybody that would like to ask, please walk up.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I'm Dane Whitbeck with Meshify. I'm wondering about ecosystem for your company and where you draw the lines in terms of your value proposition. Are you looking for people to use your platform, or are you just looking for customers where you integrate end-to-end? It's more of a business model question.
Absolutely, great question. So we are very much an ecosystem company. We are great partners with IBM, both on the power hardware side as well as with Watson. We are partners with HP on their Edgeline IoT devices. We've partnered with National Instruments and support all of their data acquisition protocols. We just did a very big announcement at the OSI Soft Conference with them, supporting their data historian and their data capture capabilities. We've done a very large announcement with Google on the use of TensorFlow, the world's first TensorFlow-powered security system. So, as I mentioned earlier, you can't do work with Microsoft technology such as their AR infrastructure without really getting into a partnership with them. So a broad set of partnerships. We do look to deliver the solution to the customer, but I think as the company continues to scale and grow, particularly as we look at other geographies, there will be an opportunity, an increasing opportunity, to deliver the end solution via a partner to the customer. Right now, we just want to make sure that anything cutting edge that we do, we provide the best possible experience to the customer. This is new stuff, and one of the things that will help is 5, 6, 10 customers standing up and saying, yes, this stuff works, it's very helpful. That causes the revolution to move forward.
Excellent presentation, Amir. Really appreciate that. And I personally appreciate the Fringe reference. Highly underrated show from Fox a few years ago. It's available on Hulu, somewhere between X-Files and Law & Order. You all love it.
You shouldn't miss it. You shouldn't miss it.
So let's have a round of applause for Amir. And let's take 10 minutes, have some coffee, catch up on phone calls, that sort of thing. Reconvene here at 10:45.